This is Interpreting Wine founder and host Lawrence Francis welcoming you to the Market Pulse UK podcast series. This features a cross-section of UK hospitality professionals, including sommeliers, importers, independent merchants and wine bars. Featuring voices from Suffolk, Norfolk, Manchester and Scotland, as well as the capital, focusing on what's happening right now in their part of the industry. Go beyond the same old trends everyone's been repeating for years with up-to-date information from those in the know. Today's conversation features Bert Blaize of Norfolk Cellars. We first hear Bert's origin story and get an insight into his current role, before discussing their customers and specifically what influences their buying decisions. Next, we discuss the trends that Bert is paying attention to and what regions he's most excited by now, before closing on his green and red flags when it comes to buying wines. Enjoy.
So I started in Staffordshire and I started working in restaurants from a very, very young age. I must have been like 15. I think my first job was at pot wash and emptying ashtrays. It was that long ago. And then worked my way up. I kind of turned my back on it for a little while and then came quickly back to it because I thought I wanted to be a chef, and then I didn't want it. So I trained for a little while, but left that. Then I was a restaurant manager and general manager in Manchester, and then I wanted to move down south, so I slowly worked my way down south. Worked in London, got a job as a sommelier, worked my way up again as head sommelier and then beverage director. And then kind of did some consulting and writing in lockdown, and that carried on. That was kind of a good circuit breaker, lockdown, when I came off the floor properly. And then after lockdown, nowhere really interested me that I wanted to work for. And then we moved out of London. So we moved up to Norfolk, and I was kind of frustrated with the restaurants and wine lists in Norfolk for 2 years. And I was commuting back to London, lots and consulting lots in London, but I wanted to go to places at the weekend, and it just didn't exist in Norfolk. So I thought, right, I'm gonna have to create it myself. I did open up a pop-up shop in May 24. That quickly became a permanent shop and then a bar. And now it's turning into a restaurant as well. So the site's huge. I kind of made it smaller, partitioned it, and then because I was terrified by the size of it, I didn't really have much confidence. It's hard starting your own business. It's risky, obviously, as well. But I just went for it, and it's slowly expanded. I wish I would have done it all from the start, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then nice, it's evolved, and I've got to know kind of what's required up here, and I've got to know it better and met people and connections, and I've got a really good team now, which has slowly grown with me. And just doing that from scratch, and I own more of it as well, which is important. A lot of people start their own things and give away all the equity at the beginning, but I didn't take any equity. I didn't take any investment. I did it myself because I've spent my whole career working for the people. Like, why would you then go and work for the people? Like, and you work even harder when it's your own place as well. I think that's where I'm up to now.
I love it. And again, I'm sure uber modest kind of guy. Could you just fill again the few people who haven't heard of you in on what are some of the roles that you had? Because, you had some pretty prestigious roles, didn't you, across your time on the floor?
I always wanted to work in the best possible places. So that was always my driver. Like, a lot of times I took a pay cut to take jobs because I wanted to work there. Like, the big one was like the Clove Club when I first moved to London. I was like, right, I really want to work there. And then the boys are from Manchester and used to work and live around the corner from where I was. So I tried to get a job there and got rejected pretty quickly. And then I knew the head sommelier going in. He turned into a bit of my mentor, and he took me on under his wing and taught me a lot. That was cool. At the time, it was like, we were in the top 50 in the world. And like, I look back and that whole team are like superstars. They're like, Roos Scholarship winners and like incredible people that I got to work with who made me look really good, which is always nice. It was a serious team there. It was awesome.
Yeah. And I guess one of the reasons I ask is I think it maybe gives context to where you physically are as well there. You're what is it, sort of 2-3 hours from London, as you say, kind of this, well, you tell me, the scene maybe couldn't have been more different when you got there. You already spoken about some of the kind of the frustrations there. It was a question of if you had to build it, didn't you? You have to make something happen.
Yeah. It's a weird place. It's a little bit remote. The produce is insane here. Like, lobsters land just there. just outside, and like amazing pork and vegetables and seafood, and it's got everything. It's awesome. All the wild beach herbs that grow, which I made my own vermouth from, actually, from the beach herbs outside, and local
Nice.
wine and local honey. But there's an abundance of produce, and like the whelks that get landed outside, I think over 90% get shipped off to Korea because it's a delicacy there, and like it's an abundance here. And the wine list, there's a lot of pubs here, and the wine list, this is kind of how it goes. So someone locally building a wine list, they have not trained as a sommelier. They're either a restaurant owner that's never worked in the industry before, and they just pick all the wines that they like, or they get a sales rep to write the wine list for them, and they only use one wine importer.
Yeah.
So the wine lists here are so one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we use 18 different suppliers here, and I cherry pick all the best bits and bang a little bit direct, which is hard. We're not really at that scale yet to do that much.
Mm-hmm.
Got ambitions in the future, but yeah, that's the way that people build wine lists. And then you try and chat to them about bottles and wine, and the eyes just glaze over. They don't know, because a lot of them haven't picked the wine themselves. There's a disconnect. Sommeliers aren't really a thing up here. It's weird. It's a bit soulless, and a lot of people open up wine shops and wine bars around here that have never worked in the industry before. They've got no experience to draw on, so they're just a little bit like, they just kind of swing and miss. And it's sad, and I want that community. I want people to, like, London is great, like all our neighbours would be really friendly, we bounce off them, we go to tastings together and dinners. There's some of that here. I've made friends with local restaurants, and they're so lovely and supportive, a handful, but a lot of them are very much like they see it as competition rather than collaborating with somebody, which is really sad, coming from London and how amazing London is, as you know.
Yeah. And again, it feels like more choice is going to benefit everybody, right? And it's like, again, I'm sure, as amazing thing as your place is, people, they don't want to just come to one place, do they? They'd rather have multiple spots to kind of hop around, which I think brings us really into the area that I think is more around. This series is looking at really 4 different avatars, let's say, in the UK wine industry. So the sommelier, the person running a wine bar, the person who's a merchant, and the person who's in a restaurant or is in an import setting. And it sounds as though you've already really covered all of those 4, which I think is really kind of exciting for me. And then you've also covered London, and then you're now there, as you say, in East Anglia, out in Norfolk. So let's bring the focus onto the customer then. So I asked you to describe who your ideal customer is. And you said it's somebody with an open mind, willing to taste and listen and take a little risk. Yeah, introduce us to that kind of customer. Tell us a bit more about them.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen. Obviously, someone doesn't just walk off the street and go, "Here, have some money, pick whatever you want." Obviously, you have to work on that.
Yeah,
you have to gain trust, and you have to you have to get to know them before you get that, and then you get the customers coming back all the time, and they just go, "Bert, what's new?"
Yeah,
or I'm having a party, I'm cooking this. What's good? And they just will go with anything that you pick, and 9 times out of 10 I'll have a good time. Like, sometimes I'll miss, but yeah, they're great, and you have to work really, really hard to get that. And we're quite lucky because we've got the bar, soon to be restaurant as well next door, and the merchants, because working in the merchants is quite hard. Working in a wine shop is quite hard, because obviously in a restaurant you get instant feedback from the customer.
Yeah.
With a wine shop, they might hate the bottle and not come back at all, which is really tricky, because I've got a nice range of wines here as well, so it's hard. So they could pick up a low intervention bottle off the shelf and wonder what the hell's going on. So we try and hand sell everything. I hate the notes on bottles and when they dumb down wine, so we try not to do that. We just have the price, and that's it. And if someone's looking at a bottle, we'll go over and we'll say, "Hey, let's have a glass together. Let's have a taste together. What are you in the mood for? I've got this open today." And just chat to them, and maybe they're visiting, and we give them restaurant recommendations or whatever. Or it's just starting that conversation. Then you'll tend to see the same people coming back, but it takes a while to get to that point. But when you do, it's so cool when people come in with an open mind and you can pick what you want, and there isn't a stigma around a certain wine. That's painful sometimes when people are like, "I don't like Chardonnay, I don't like Riesling, I like this and I don't like that." Stop thinking about how, I was doing a wine tasting the other day, I was like, stop thinking of whether you like the wine or not. Drink it and assess it and understand it, rather than don't like. Just drink everything, and there's a good version of everything, I always say, and there's a good version of everything for everyone out there as well. You just haven't had the right one yet.
Yeah. And interestingly, is that where you find a lot of those conversations kind of starting then? You're like, "Oh, I see you looking at this wine," or people, they'll come in and they'll start the conversation with, "I don't like Chardonnay," or like, or, "I only drink that." Is that a fair statement? That's kind of a go-to, starting point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you said, "What's your dream customer?" I guess that is the dream customer. But if everyone walked in and was like, "Oh, what's good?" that would make it a bit boring. So actually, I probably get the biggest kick out of people coming and saying, "I don't like Chardonnay," and then I give them a Chardonnay and they really like it. That's probably like the biggest kick you can get, and something they've not heard of before, actually. And that's what you want. You don't want it to be too easy, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and interestingly, where do you go the other way? Because again, I've had that experience. For a while, I was working in retail. And I was thinking back to that actually when I knew we were going to be talking. And I remember that there was there were certain characters that would come in, and they'd literally just come in and they'd pick up the same bottle every time, put it down, and they'd go happy. And there was never really any conversation about changing the bottle or explore what's new. That never happened. Versus then you had the complete other ones. They'd be like, "Oh, Lawrence, I love that recommendation you gave me last time. What else is there? What else are you going to kind of point me towards?"
Yeah, everyone's different. And also the people that walk in and go, look, they're very defensive, and you can see with their body language, warming them up and just giving them a bit of charm, and just you overhear them say something and go, "Oh yeah, I know that. Have you tried this before? That's cool." And then they buy a bottle. You go, "Well, look, we didn't come in to buy a bottle. We didn't want to buy a bottle because we were buying too much wine recently, and you've used your Jedi tricks to sell me a bottle of wine." That's pretty cool as well. You just get kicks out of that. That's great. So those little wins and kicks, and and I'm looking forward to the restaurant, because that's where I used to love seeing people have a food and wine pairing that would blow their mind, seeing that instant feedback of what they like. And so we try and do that in the bar. We use the wines that we have by the glass, because we've got a nice range to kind of understand their palate a little bit as well. Because a lot of people struggle to explain what their palate's like. I'll give them 3 different types of wine. Let me know what you think about. I'm not telling you what they are. Just try these, and I'll tell you after. And that's quite a fun way to do it. And you're like, right, I've got you locked in now. I know what you like. The worst one, you probably had this working in retail, is someone who's been on holiday to the arse end of Greece, and it's got a random picture on their phone of this random Greek wine that was €2, and they had a really good time. Yeah, because you're on holiday in the sun. Do you have this wine? No, I don't have that particular wine, but I've got lots that are very similar. And no, I don't want. And then walk out. It's that's you can't do anything.
Yeah, a Croatian rosé is coming to mind, we ask for a lot of that around June, July time.
Yeah.
But okay, so something that I'm really excited to ask you about, Bert, is so much of the kind of market analysis and data analysis that I see, especially from the US, it talks about age groups.
Yeah.
I went across to the Oregon Wine Symposium last year, and I've never heard more talk about boomers and millennials and Gen Z, and you do this for boomers and you do this for Gen Z. Does that map across to what you're seeing there, the conversations that you're having? Or is there another way to think about it? Or is there something else going on in terms of, okay, who's asking for what, and how you treat one customer and what they're expecting as opposed to another?
Short answer, but it's hard because I'm in a little bubble, aren't I? I mean, I guess those facts and figures are better for maybe supermarket buying habits, and understand the younger generation have just been more health conscious, so they are drinking but less, and obviously they haven't got much disposable income as well, like young people don't, so they're not really spending as much. But it's tricky. And we're in a bubble here because I think Norfolk's the second or third oldest population in the UK as well. A lot of people go to retirement, and it's hard. But no, I don't see the certain types of wine. Everyone's different, so I don't see that. But I do a lot of training, sommeliers and consulting, and a lot of the young sommeliers I'm training or waiters aren't drinking. They don't want to drink during wine tastings, or just smell. So I see that, and I keep hearing and reading about all the doom and gloom where young people aren't drinking. But it's just, I think they haven't got cash right now, which doesn't help. But yeah, they're just being more health conscious as well. And I wasn't really into wine when I was really young either. It took me a while. You start with different.
Yeah. No, exactly. No, it's the same here. But I guess I guess that's again an insight into your punters, isn't it? It's like if the average age is kind of boomer / Gen X, then maybe you're not seeing that. But I guess maybe I think it's a question. I think it's an answer you've already started giving there. But it's like, okay, this kind of I guess stereotype that as soon as you're older, you're not interested in orange wine, or you're not interested in wine that's off the beaten track, and you only want Bordeaux and you only want the classics. Is that true?
Absolutely not. No. But you have to introduce them to it, and you have to gain their confidence first. We do monthly wine tastings. So I think most wine shops do it. I mean, most wine shops are turning into hybrids now anyway. You need, like, I've got all these different revenue streams on the online website and everything. You need revenue streams. I think just being a wine shop now and stood there and wait for people to come to you, you're dead in the water. You have to work so hard now, and there's so much competition. But yeah, I build up confidence at wine tastings and giving people tasters and giving people blind tasters as well.
Yeah.
Not in like a teasing you way, but in a try this and let me know what you think kind of, like, just see and then tell them about it after. And it's education and doing it in the right way without being condescending. And yeah, people are really interested. And again, there's different styles of wine. So a lot of the wine that you might see in East London, you know, the wine list, and in West London as well, they're both as bad as each other when they got the one-dimensional wine list. So we only do natural wine, we only do classics. Like, there's a beautiful sweet spot right in the middle there, guys. Like, you don't have to do that. You're just confusing consumers, and then they think, oh, I don't like wines from Georgia because last time I had one, it tasted like gone off apple cider vinegar. So it's tricky. It's really tricky. There's a lot of misinformation now as well. But when I've got loads of older generation people, whatever you call them, into new, funky, interesting, even some low intervention, good made low intervention. Yeah. So
yeah,
I definitely think they're open-minded. You just got to speak to them in the right way, haven't you?
That's it.
I guess.
That's it. And again, I think it's great insight, and it just makes sense, doesn't it? You know, people. I think that, you know, what I'm kind of drawing out from that is, you know, people, they want that when they build up trust, you know, you're putting credit in the bank, aren't you? You know, you're putting that kind of goodwill in the bank, and I've had it as well. You know, maybe you've had it less. But sometimes you miss, don't you, with the wine, and it can be a bit of a source of humour sometimes, can't it? It can be like, oh, you know, that was a bit of a miss last time, and you can maybe, you know, kind of course correct a little bit. But, you know, we're human, aren't we? And you know, wine is an alive thing, and, you know, mired in preference and different tastes, isn't it?
Yeah, like example, we've got a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc on the shelf, but it's made on the floor, so it's, you know, it's a Vanchon. Someone had it, and the guy's mum actually brought it back and went, "He's brought this, and I don't know what's wrong with it," and like really angry. And then, yeah, why is it orange? Why does it taste like sherry? And we're like, okay.
And again, I'm sure that's probably, you know, good feedback for you as well, isn't it? And the staff. Like, okay, look, you know, maybe, you know, it's inverted commas New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. You know, we've got to go down to the next level. We've got to kind of explain that, make sure people are clear what they're signing up for.
It's because when you see people looking at the wines and like, you're like, hey, you know, some people are like, no, and they just go what they're comfortable with. So yeah, we've got a wine. We need to put like warnings on them. Warning: this wine is.
Yeah, this does not conform to the stereotypes that you may have about New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. What about price? Because I thought it was interesting. I gave you a sort of a range of prices. Pick what is the sort of, I guess, spot or more, you know, where do most of the wines fall, you know, in a sort of a bell curve. And you said the sort of 20 to 40. Does that hold for takeaway and drink in? Can you just
Well, no, that's just takeaway. That's just takeaway. Retail margin. And price is hard because it used to be the case where I could have like an £8-9 wine on the shelf at retail, and that was good. Then it went up to like £10 sort of just after lockdown, and now I don't think I can put anything on the shelf, hand on heart, that's made with any care for under £12. So that's as low as I go, £12. And I just think I could really do it and have something lower, but like, why try and compete with the supermarkets when they're selling wine at like as loss leaders? Like, why even go down that route? And I'm making pennies, and like, someone buys a case and it ships and it gets broken. Why even trying to play their game? Why not just say, look, this is as low as I'll go, and it's wine made with care. So it starts at 12, so it's already pushed up a little bit.
Okay.
And then the sweet spot for retail is around about 20, 25. Yeah.
So 25 drinking in.
No, takeaway retail. Drinking in.
Sorry, I was getting a bit confused there. So it's but £12 for you to buy.
So that's our cheapest. No, £12 is our cheapest retail price.
Okay.
That sits on the shelf.
Got you. But the sweet spot is at 20 to 24. Or that's where most of the sales come from. Sorry.
For, again, retail price, takeaway.
Yeah.
And then on the wine list, it's probably like a little bit higher, like 35, 40 is probably the sweet spot on the wine list, I'd say.
Okay. And then on that, and would you say where are you selling most of your wines then? It's presumably retail.
No, it's in the bar.
Yeah.
Drinking probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the most popular for drinking. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's talk a bit about that then, because I want to, you know, we kind of have to choose one, but I guess where you've got the most, where you've got the most data, and also that's going to be where you get the most immediate feedback as well, isn't it? Because they're having it sort of sat there. So what would be the sort of price range then? And presumably they're the same wines. People can just sort of grab one off the shelf and plonk it down for a bit of corkage.
Exactly that. Yeah, we do a set price. I don't say that anymore. I have the prices on the bottle on the wine list because loads of people at the start, they're not used to doing that outside of London. Loads of people thought they could bring their own wine and that like all the wine was £10 and like just crazy things. And then someone was saying £10 for corkage. Do you not get free snacks with that as well? I'm like, no, that's cheap, man. So people didn't get it. So I don't even say corkage. I just say that's the price. But that's exactly how I do it.
Okay. And then is it easy to, so again, knowing your customers, and we're kind of painting a local regular customer who's coming back. I guess they've got the trust built up in you, maybe slightly older because they're retired, open-minded, they're not averse to Georgian wine or a low intervention wine or any of those sorts of things. Do you notice any other sorts of factors that will sort of steer them or will kind of influence, I guess, their price tolerance? Is it as easy as sort of night of the week? Is it occasion? It's like, okay, we're having a birthday, anniversary, so we push the boat out a little bit. What are you sort of seeing in terms of what's going on in their mind when they're looking at the list and choosing what to drink?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I wish it was like, when you're going to buy a car and like you say, oh, what's your budget? And they tell you. But you can't ask that in a restaurant, can you, or bar? You can't say what's your budget. You have to say, give me a rough steer. But it'd be amazing if people just walked in and went, I want this kind of wine, and this is my budget. Great. But yeah, it can be. Yeah, it's tricky. I think the more confidence, obviously, and more invested in you, then they're willing to spend more. Special occasions, what happens with special occasions? A lot of the time, people want to do like a personalized wine tasting, which is pretty cool. We've got like this big tasting table behind me here. So fit 12 of your mates around, and we do like 6 wines, and they want to learn, and they're just tell us about wine, which is really cool in the bar. That's a really good vibe when we get to do those, and they're quite regular. And then if it's someone's birthday, I'll try and do some digging and find like a birth year vintage and serve it to them blind and get someone to guess the vintage, and cool things like that. And so that's what tends to happen for special occasions. And then most people, I think, regulars, I've got I know what they will spend on wine, and they won't go over, which is fair. That they won't. Yeah, they're in that bracket, and it's about again building trust with them again. And I know they'll go up to that, but I don't want it all the time be like pushing at the top of that. I want to just recommend the wines that I think they're going to enjoy and they've not tried yet. That's try and be a genuine person. I think that's the thing I try and do as well.
Yeah. As you say, it's like presumably though, having those wines up your sleeve that are kind of punching above their weight, and that's I think that's something that we'll definitely get to in the conversation. Presumably that's really also cool to have, where it's like, okay, taste this blind, give that a try. What do you think of that? And it's actually kind of over delivering.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, every wine on the shelf has to punch above its weight in terms of price. I think you've got the cool ones, which obviously then the price goes out the window with the cool wines that we have, but the price goes past the sensibility, I think, for some. And I try and delist those and not work with them anymore. You see, they're just increasing each year, and they're selling more and more direct to consumer. And I try and get rid of those.
Okay. Now, I want to ask about your excitement, your wine crushes, let's say. And you told me you were very excited about Piemonte, Barolo, Barbaresco, and whites made from local varieties. So, just to kind of frame this bit of the conversation, could you say a bit about, again, what's kind of floating your boat in that area right now?
I love Piemonte. I'm quite greedy, so I'm always thinking about what meal I'm going to make next. And I love Italian wines for that reason. They're just like, I love pairing, me, I like pairing food and wine and approaching it from the food first, and then thinking, because it gives you a steer with the wine. And I love like the beef and Nebbiolo and like earthy mushroom and Nebbiolo. Yeah, I love those flavors. And I think the wines are just getting better and better. They've had some great vintages. I'm really excited by the smaller producers that are setting up there. They finally start fighting internally about the old Barolo wars with the contemporary and the classic. They kind of all met somewhere in the middle now, which is quite fun. And I think they've been heavily influenced by Burgundy, and Burgundy prices going wild. You can get some really good value for money. I love the indigenous grape varieties. They're great for me to introduce to customers. I love talking about Timorasso. I'm always talking about Timorasso. It's like Riesling, almost like Chardonnay, but it's high acid and it's got great texture to it. I love telling people about that and the story, and how it nearly became extinct. So I love those as well. We do 3 types of Madeira by the glass as well. I love Madeira. That's cool because like fortified wines have become really unfashionable, and people are familiar with them and know them, but haven't really had a good example. So giving them a good Madeira, I really love doing that.
Obviously, a couple of styles that you've kind of spoken about there, but so to kind of taking them in order then. When it comes to the Italian varietals, is there a particular supplier that you're working with, and that they kind of helped, fan the flames, let's say, of your passion there, or was there something else that kind of really has again got you going and got you kind of excited about those wines?
Yeah, I always enjoyed the wines, and what changed for me, you'll be really annoyed if I don't mention them because he likes being mentioned, was Josh, who has a page called Word on the Grapevine, and he's not even in industry. He's insane. He retains information like no one I've ever met before. I remember when we started getting into wine, and now he's just like, he knows them all. And he really, really, really knows Piemonte inside and out. He writes all the wineries' letters directly and like contacts them. We were going out on a tour, and normally it's like, I'd be like, I want to go here and here and here. And he kept saying, no, I'm going to be the tour guide. I'm going to be a tour guide. So I think I booked in Aldo Conterno, and I think that was it. And then he took me to see these young growers that are they all imported by Keeling and Andrew? I think they are. So we went to see Lalou, who we wrote about in the last book as well. Love their wines. Isabel Feline and Tom Darcy wines as well. They're the three. They're all Keeling and Andrew, actually. They are. At the time, I don't think they were imported by anyone, and Keeling and Andrew just came and swept them up. I think like they've all worked at some of the best wineries in the world, like Lot Burgundy and Piemonte experience. And those three wineries are so special. And even before they released their Barolos, they were just releasing Langhe Nebbiolos. They were already on allocation, which is ridiculous. Before they've even released, it's insane. Those three wines really changed and got me really excited. And then they led me on to other wineries as well. And so that's good. A and B have got some good stuff that I like as well. Passione Vino, Fucicino della Rossa that we have on the shelf there.
Yeah.
Piero Busso, again, from Keeling and Andrew. Yeah, they're the wines that get me excited. And then Lee and Sanderman and Liberty Wines have got some good stuff as well, more classic, and like Bellotto and like some stuff from Alto Piemonte as well. Which is,
and if you up in the wilds of Norfolk, how do you kind of keep those relationships going then with those suppliers? Then is it a question of they are then kind of leading you towards maybe new producers or new grape varieties, or how does that sort of work for you there?
Sort of. I mean, it's hard because I've been in the industry quite a long time now. So when I was picking the wine list, and it's the first time I've picked a wine list for me, and I've got no one like criticizing or scrutinizing what I'm putting on. So you have to do it yourself, which is really hard. Yeah. So I want to put these people that I've worked with all my career. And it's also hard because I've got a lot of friends that are importers or reps. And it's like, I really like you, and I really like your wines, but like if I work with someone, I need to work with them. I need to have stuff by the glass, and I need to work with you. So yeah, I mean, like just when I get to London, like seeing mates and like, I love doing BYOs and bringing bottles and things like that. But the older I get, like most people, you tend to become more stuck in your ways, don't you? Like with music. New music today is terrible. It's not. It's just
exactly
you like what you like, and that's it. And it's kind of the same. So it's nice. And you see where people have, like maybe a winemaker that I know has gone and done their own thing, and I've followed their career, and that's cool. It's all like connection based, I guess, with a lot of the wines that are on that shelf. They used to work there, or I know them. Or, it's tough. It used to be like I'd go to a trade tasting and I'd pick up like, oh, I got a load of wines that I like now. But now it's kind of like you're just tasting the new vintage. What trade tastings now for me are tasting new vintages. That's a good use of going to a trade tasting, not necessarily trying new things, because it's more like, oh, that guy used to work with them and now they're working with them. Yeah. Maybe that's me getting older, or there's more movement in the wine industry now. I know a lot of the smaller guys are getting brought up because it's hard being a wine importer in this day. I would not like to be a small wine importer. In 2026, it's brutal.
But I did want to ask about Madeira, because I've got this idea with this series and with this kind of line of inquiry. Really, it's thinking about, okay, yeah, we still all of these avenues are kind of happening, and as you say, things fall out of favor, and things become underpriced. I mean, I'm sure sherry is the kind of great darling, isn't it, of the industry, because it's such a great deal, and you can find it just about anywhere.
Yeah.
Can we talk a bit more about Madeira then? Because again, my kind of take on regions like that kind of bundle sherry, Madeira, port together, regions that are kind of fallen out of favor. My read of their approach to the market and is education. They'll like spin up these education courses, and it's like we've got to educate. Whereas, really what you've been talking about with your interaction with the customer, it hasn't been really, I don't think, education. And that's not what I've taken from it. I've taken more kind of exploration, like, hey, try this, this is really cool. Have a bit of this, and you, of course, you want to be able to give some of the story, but you're not giving a sort of a lecture there, are you, about how to the Madeira creation process. You're not going so far down the rabbit hole, are you? It tastes great. It goes with X. I'm excited about it, and you're kind of passing on that passion.
Yeah, I agree. You're learning the history of it and how important it was. And I hate what's in trend, what's fashionable at the moment. I think it's boring. And the amount of articles I've read are going, oh, it's sherry's year. People are going to get on sherry. Like, that's the classic one, isn't it? But I don't. Yeah, good wine's good wine. I mean, there's some areas that, like, you've got, like, the things happen, like with Spain with the new wave. That was exciting because there were generally new things to taste.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's just a revisiting of a region and saying, look, these wines are good. Like, yeah, we know they're good. To have them listed. And Madeira is that one. It's always been good, isn't it? It's such a long history of producing wine there. I mean, the full disclosure, I did some work for Madeira. I think I pitched it. I'd like to say it was my idea. Hopefully it was. I've worked with them not last year, the year before. No. So I did something with them last year, 25. And 24, they did something different. And then 23, I pitched the idea. I think it was me. Hopefully it was me. Sorry if it wasn't. Of doing a food and wine matching class, because that's what I think one of the massive, because I'm always going to say that, but Madeira is so versatile with food pairings. Pair it with some anchovies or some chocolate dessert. So I thought, and I love learning, and all the way I learned was practical. I was like hands-on. I wasn't very good at school, university, but I took to being a sommelier in hospitality because I could taste and interact, and I learned on the job, which I really loved. That's just how I learn. And I know a lot of people in hospitality are like that. We're kind of like the clever people that weren't very good at school were kind of misfits, we're weirdos. So then maybe that's how they would learn it. Well, you do get some people that are like really academic and go off and do their MS, whatever. But a lot of people aren't very good at that, like me. So I thought like doing a food and wine matching masterclass would be really cool. We did it in, I think it was 23. It was really well received. And then I did it again last year with Daniel Watkins, who's a killer chef, cooks over fire and big into his ferment. So his flavors are really extreme, like be challenging to pair. And Madeira, obviously, because you've got those smoky notes coming through, you've got sweetness and acidity to play with. We went with Daniel, and like, my God, it was game changing. And we paired up all the wines. I think we did 6 wines, different styles of Madeira, and 6 different dishes, and that was so cool. And people really got a kick out of it. And it was less like, let me teach you about Madeira. We did that at the beginning in the top line. But it was more like, taste these things that we've paired Madeira, and it give you some ideas of pairings in your restaurants, and serving them by the glass, because it's bulletproof once it's open. So it's such a good sale, because no one really, it's hard to have a sweet wine by the glass and open, but you can have a sweet Madeira, bulletproof, it's not going to go off. You can get back vintages of it that are ready to drink, and they're not aged in the bottle, they're aged in demijohn or barrels. You just take the top off, it's got a stopper on it. It's like cream for a sommelier. You don't have to worry if it's like drinking well now or whatever. Just pop and go. It's like really easy. So that was my approach for that, for those mass, and it was really well received. I don't blow too much smoke at my own ass, but I thought it was really well received. People really liked it. We got a lot of very positive feedback from it. But you're right, the masterclasses and the way that you engage, it's a bit tricky. And sometimes they're for the press. You get people from the press that just want like a headline and go, that's my headline, beautiful, that's my article, wrote, and on to the next one. And it's kind of boring. And you look around the room and there aren't the buyers that you'd want anymore aren't really in there. And it is just, nothing against wine influencers, there's some brilliant influencers there, but that's what a lot seem to dominate a lot of tastings now, which was never the way.
Yeah, it's again, we kind of mentioned this before we started recording. I think again, one of the reasons for doing this series is to actually give producers and regions some up to date intel. I really feel, actually, I'll speak to friends, and I've been working with a producer over in Austria, just about how they can get more out of a tasting. It's like that idea of just rocking up to the table and just as soon as somebody comes up to the table, start pouring the wine for them. It's very one-sided, and I'm not convinced it helps either side, to be honest with you. I think actually the person who's going to taste the wine should be sharing a lot more about who they are and what they're looking for and what they're interested in. And actually, you've got on the other side of the table, essentially when it comes to that wine, the font of all the knowledge, and they can't give you the whole knowledge, in 5 minutes. So they need to know, I think they need to know who stood in front of them to be able to kind of tailor that message. And I think it's interesting that, that I think there's a parallel between what you what you said at the start, and your customers. It's like, you don't just sort of, vomit on them about what they should be drinking. How it came across is it's a relationship and it's a conversation. You've got the, advantage of maybe, having several weeks or several occasions to have that. Whereas I think the what makes it more difficult at tastings is that it's often just a one hit, isn't it? It's like, okay, you've got to do all of that, get all the trust, get all the information in that 5-minute window when there's maybe other people coming to taste as well, and it's loud and the lights are on and it's all happening.
You're right. No, you're right. The game's changed, hasn't it, for trade tastings, because there's so many new people working in the industry, and all have got a different approach and a different agenda. So it might be more price focused for some, or might be about the story or the wine, or it's right. You're right. You have to almost be a little bit creative, don't you, getting the message across and how you communicate and knowing who you're talking to as well. So yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Okay. Well, I hope that's a positive message that can be taken though as well. Just that it's not. I think a producer should not put themselves into the mindset of being a server at those events. I think it's actually fair that it's a two-way exchange of information. It's not just here's my wine and here's all the stuff that is on the tech sheet. It's like, no, let's actually having a conversation about the wine it can help both of you. You actually get something more interesting, I think, as an attendee.
Yeah, I do think it's hard though for the buyer, because I try and share when I'm talking to people, let them know, like, I list these wines, I love them, and ask them a specific question. But for a lot of younger buyers, sommeliers, people in the industry, it's hard for them to approach someone who has all the knowledge, and it's probably quite intimidating and might actually speak a different language to like share with them. They don't even know what questions to ask sometimes. So I take people and I take younger teams, and they're like, you're not asking questions, guys, what's going on? And like, they don't know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
They're just, so it's tricky.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I want to put the focus back on you for the last couple of questions then, Bert, because I asked you about, right at the moment of buying, and it's really interesting that you've spoken about all the different suppliers that you've got. You've spoken about your personal kind of, wine crushes and trends, and you've spoken about the interaction with customers, which again, these are all, I think, important, and presumably you've got those sorts of things in the back of your mind, haven't you, when you're considering whether or not to buy a new wine. Let's talk about something making its way onto your list there. So I asked you about red flags and green flags, but we'll finish on the high. So we'll do the red flags first. And your first red flag was if they have medals stuck on the bottle, and bronze medals from 3 years ago. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. I forgot I said that, but it's a good point. I definitely think wineries should be entering competitions, and there's lots of good, notable competitions out there, but don't slap them all over your label. Keep it classy, guys. You don't want sommeliers walking around the dining room with all their like medals and stuff around the neck.
Yeah,
it's just enough. For me, it puts me off. I want to taste the wine and get that level of authenticity and judge it myself. I don't want someone else's tasting criteria on the label. I guess I get that you're proud of it, but have it up on the wall in the winery. Put it in your booklets, whatever. Don't put it on the bottle. I think it's so important to look, and I don't think that my consumers really care about medals either. Maybe in a supermarket or a majestic environment, because it can give them a little bit of a steer, but I think at this level it's more like, you do get some old boys that come in and ask about, I could probably mention Parker points and it would help sell the bottle probably, but don't put it on the label. Keep it classy. Keep it classy.
I completely agree. And I've never seen ever in my life a greater, what would you say, a kind of release of energy, and just like, energy completely going from a room. When I was at a winery, I won't say the country, wine was great and it looked good and it tasted good. After the story, they then proceeded to verbally give us a list of all of the medals and awards. And it was like it was only about 30, 40 seconds, but I could just see the color and the energy just sort of draining from the audience. And I feel like, keep it classy in terms of the presentation, of the bottle itself. But I also just feel like sometimes, less is more. I think actually, everything you've spoken about today has been about the relationship and the contact with the guests. And I feel like, okay, maybe this is an example of where those sorts of criteria, if you like, or labels that they kind of get in the way, really, between somebody saying, I trust Bert, I want to know what Bert's excited about, I want to know what Bert's team is excited about, versus this
agreed.
is how good we are.
They can get in the way, you're right. They can be great, and they can make you want to pick the bottle up and explore it with like a funky design. That's cool. But yeah, I was also chatting to a sommelier, I'm not going to get a name, and he was saying like how important it was that always wines on the list had good labels, because they were out on the... He's very proud of it. He's like, look at all my labels, they're all good labels. Like, good winemakers have good wine labels as well, and it's really important they're all like natural wines.
Yes, they look the part. So any other red flags then? I mean, you've already mentioned sometimes, on occasion, if people are kind of turning up without appointments, and again, I guess you do, and you have had a lot of sympathy for the how tough it is for a lot of importers, but maybe doorstepping you is not the way to go.
There's a way of doing it. I mean, I've had reps just drop in and go, hey, sorry, don't mean to interrupt. There's a bottle there for you. Taste it, and then do a follow-up, or like just leaving something for Bert or whatever. Not that I want to encourage that. I don't get this much now. I'm not in London, but I don't like it. But it sounds like it's just don't do it. But then again, I'm not very good at responding to people either. So it's like if I don't respond to them, then they're just going to come in. So it's almost nicer just to be upfront sometimes and be like, look, I'm not looking for anything. Let's stay in touch. And then there's some that's like they respond and like, oh, maybe I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll be looking for more in spring, and on like the first day of spring they email you and go, hey, it's spring.
They've got that alert set up.
It's email, and it's not an easy job. Sommeliers can be arseholes and wine buyers can be arseholes, and I can have a bad day and be an arsehole as well. So they do a good job and they find some good wines for you, and it's tricky because there's just so much competition out there. So, yeah, put that as one of my red flags. But yeah, it's hard.
Okay, let's close off on the green flags then. So what you put here, Bert, was sense of place, balance, good value for money, winemaker takes care and pride, and it has a story. Don't ask for much, do you?
No, mate. Yeah, and I guess my red flags are the opposite of all those as well. It's not just one thing that put you off. Even if a wine did have medals on the label and the rep did just walk in the middle of service and sit down and give you the bottle, if I tasted it and it was like, wow, this ticks all my boxes, then that can weigh all the red flags, to be fair. If your wine's good, then you don't need anything to flog it, and it can make up for mistakes. But yeah, it's hard. There's so much competition out there, and I've only got so many places, and I think wine lists in general are getting smaller, and there's more variety out there. So there's more like newer countries that are coming through now that you kind of have to have references for. So other regions get diluted, and you can be a place that kind of has just like what we're drinking this month, and this is a big list. Or what I try and do is try and map out and do a skeleton so the wine list has got some balance. And I also try and list the wines for a reason. I love because we're on the coast is just outside my window, so I love doing like high acid wines that work with seafood and wines that are from a coastal influence. I did a tasting. I'm going to try and do more on a sailboat. We went out around the salt marshes and they're all coastal influence wines, local food pairings. I love doing things like that. So that kind of gives my wine list a bit of an identity as well, because you have to have some kind of focus. And the wine list is also the racking for the retail. So I can physically see the wine list in front of me. I can kind of move things around, which is quite fun, and it focuses me, because before I had like loads of overflow from the wine list all around the tasting table, and then the guys were all just getting really confused, like, Bert, what is this? You haven't told us about this yet, which is fair. So I try and condense it down now. So I've already got an agenda when I'm tasting. It has to tick those boxes, and then it has to punch above its weight. I like tasting before I hear the price. I have to think about what I would pay for it, honestly, and not just falling into trap of listing all the wines that you like. Again, like a DJ, use that analogy. Like if a DJ just played all the stuff that they liked all night, it'd be really boring. Lots of sommeliers do that. They just list the wines that they like, and then it's just one dimensional again, which is really boring. So I try and challenge myself as well. Yeah, it's hard.
Very cool. All right. Fine. I'm going to add on a bonus question here, because this is something that I'm seeing. I'd love to get your feedback on this. So, because I happened, when I was over in Copenhagen last month, but I happened to be presenting some Swiss wines that I've been given. I said, all right, I was at the Cool Climate Summit, and I said, yeah, I'll take these to my friend, and I'll give you some of his feedback. I'll let you know what he thinks. Nice. And I put together a report for them, and just sort of said, okay, these were the themes. This is what he was saying. But my past life as a consultant and as a business psychologist came through, and I was like, okay, this needs a framework, this needs a model, this needs a structure. In a lot of ways, same as you've spoken about the wine list there. It's like, okay, these comments need grounding for these guys to do something with this. And the three areas that I really saw strongly coming out in the comments were, he was looking at, this is the importer, the Danish importer. He was looking at quality. First off, he was like, yeah, is this a good wine? I think all of your balanced points there, like, does it taste good? Does it do the business? Second one was very much around price to value ratio. He was like, okay, if this is expensive, I need to be able to justify that. If it can still be quality, but if it's a lower price, that's obviously going to be a better selling point. So that's going to really get me interested. But that was number two: quality, price value ratio. And then third was the distinctiveness of it, like how much that would stand out, either in a blind lineup, or I also kind of picked up, just would people ask for it? Would they come back in and be like, oh man, that wine you gave me last time, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was so unique, that kind of cut through. And I'm just curious, does that feel like, how does that sit with you in terms of a kind of a three-pronged kind of triangle or matrix, or just as a way to think about when you're tasting a wine, considering a new wine for the list?
Yeah, agreed. It's hard to always narrow it down because there's always like more factors than that, as well as like practically. But that last one is kind of like what I would say, like, has the wine got personality, which mean distinctive and memorable? Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you can't just fall into the category of just like listing really bold wines. Because some are like more nuanced, but yeah, definitely having personality and being memorable for sure, and unique to a certain point. But yeah, I like that like wines with personality. They kind of link to complexity as well, I guess.
Interesting. And I'm sort of making the connection back for you in a way, but I guess that distinctiveness and personality, it could also come out with the food, couldn't it? It could be that in that pairing, in that setting, that's the thing. That's the kind of the unlock for that wine.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so many different ways to approach it, but I don't really have like I don't overthink it now. I try not to have a mission. Like when you can shoot from the hip a little bit more, and you can make mistakes. It's fine. I still now make some mistakes and I put them on a shelf and I taste it and I'm like, what was I thinking with that? Or just a new vintage, and it just like
But you're human, and I guess that's kind of the beauty of wine, isn't it? Everyone along the chain, with these types of wines, they're also human, and sometimes things go a little bit different, don't they, in that journey from vineyard to
or you get some happy mistakes, or like one of my biggest selling wines is Georgian wine, actually, and it's just like a big full, it's got a bit of oak in it as well, quite oaky, but lots of people, it's quite like, it's not the kind of wine that I would open. It's very juicy, it's very lots of oak. It's not the kind of wine that I would open up normally. I kind of listed it just because it was well priced in Georgian. I thought, great, I've got Georgian wine tasting coming up. I can list that. I can pour that. Great price. But so many people come back and buy it by the case. It's my biggest selling wine. And people that come into the shop and go, I like Malbec, I like Merlot, taste this. This is from Georgia. Tell them the story of Georgia. They're like, I have a case, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It kind of happens. And you don't know until you put wine in front of your guests as well.
That's a red. Is it Saperavi?
Saperavi, yeah. That's it. And it's made in, I think it's fermented in foreign and finished in oak. That's really good. Some importers and suppliers will say, send you some samples, taste with the team, but give it to your guests as well. Get feedback from guests, because they might see or say something that you haven't thought of, because that's who you're building the wine list for.
A massive thanks to today's guest, Bert Blaize of Norfolk Cellars. Make sure you visit www.nnc.wine, the link is below, to learn more and find their main social media handles. Really, so much to take away from this episode, and it's only the first one of the series. But looking back, here are my top 3. First, the idea that older wine drinkers only drink classics or aren't open to trying new things is obviously false. Under the right circumstances, they're absolutely open to trying something different, including wines from alternative countries or made in alternative styles. And really, unless you're selling hundreds of thousands of bottles of wine, stop categorizing drinkers solely by age. Next, I think Bert's view on awards is a point well made, no pun intended. Buyers want to make their own minds up about your wines, so don't lead with awards and points. Instead, lead with what makes you unique, which is your story, and the story of why you chose to make this wine the way that you did. Lastly, really interesting to hear about the challenge of producers meeting buyers at tastings. And I think to hear this direct from a buyer is very telling. When every single industry out there is being disrupted in some way, surely producers and regions must adapt their approach to reaching their audience. For me, this isn't as simple as just changing the fare, as I believe that's just kicking the can down the road. I think the answer is to start right back at square one with reconsidering the messaging you're using and the stories that you're telling. As a reminder, Market Pulse UK is a 6-part podcast series released here on Interpreting Wine and a free in-depth report. Register to receive this when it's released at interpretingwine.com/MPUK report, and the link is below. Next time on Interpreting Wine, in episode 600, I'll be speaking with Ben Easy of Parade Wines. Subscribe to be alerted when the episode goes live, and I will see you then.